Alright guys, welcome back to my playthrough here on Absolute Victory. I realized on my last turn I really didn't do much when it came to the Pacific Theater. Honestly, I wasn't even really thinking about it. Uh, I went ahead and moved a few of the Japanese units as kind of like an end of turn thing after I got done filming last time because I was going to get a lot more going on here. I didn't know, what exactly was available. I know I wanted to have Japan go ahead and start going to town on China, and I was like, screw it. If it's against the rules, I'll figure it out. But this turn, I went ahead and, like I said in the last video, I've got a buttload of events that I had to run through. So I went ahead and I ran through a handful of them off camera already, just to have them out of the way, and then I'm gonna play through the turn and then have the remainder of them done, and I'll do a handful of those on camera at the end of the turn. In the process, though, Tibet, which is here, had an option to join the war. The UN player could have them join, gain an army, gain an extra ally, and it was only on a roll of a 1 that China would sue for separate peace with Japan. And I was like, yeah, what are the odds? And my goal was to get the separate peace. I wanted to push down here and block off the Burma and the Silk Roads. And you have to hold there until you roll a 6 at the surrender phase to get China to sue for separate peace. It makes all these KMT units now pro-Japan. Well, I ended up rolling the 1, so the KMT units are now pro-Japan. The PLA, People's Liberation Army, I think is what it is. Those are the communist Japanese units. They are still pro-UN, and the warlord units are still pro-UN. But now the Axis power have control of the KMT units and Japan, and I haven't lost any infantry there taking out these units. So I can use KMT units to take out the warlords to gain control of southern China while I push north here, north and west, with Japan's army. Because I was debating it. I was like, okay, do I go to war with, or I'm already at war with China, but do I just pull out and focus on the Philippines and try to take, over as much as I can before America enters? But I wanted to get these off my back door before that happened, while still keeping these few Russian units here neutral as long as possible. But with this separate peace actually happening, I can push in through here, take out these, take out the communist here, and then I'll have control of everything pretty much here down. Nepal ended up joining due to an event, but it only has 1 infantry unit. That infantry unit can fight anywhere, but they're in it. India is not technically in the war yet. These units I originally set out as part of setup, and in the world conflict scenario, you actually don't set those units out. You only do it in the victory over Europe scenario. I haven't bothered to put them up yet, but they're not part of it. Let me tilt the camera back here, and we'll get back over Europe, where we're at. That is going to be, again, my primary focus this turn on what's going on, but I am going to push both avenues. Not much was done through events. Germany got 1 admiral unit out of it. I really don't think anything else really happened. 1 unit of one of France's units got flipped. Nothing else really affected it, because there's a lot of if this country is neutral, if this country is not neutral. Oh, the one major thing that did happen was the Winter War happened in Finland. But when I rolled off, I got a 6, which meant that Finland remains neutral and nothing else happens. So Finland didn't lose any territory. It didn't change sides. Nothing else happened as far as that's concerned. I don't know if the Winter War plays out again or what happens. There was a chance that Finland could join the UN, a chance they could join the Axis, a chance they could be annexed completely by the Soviets, increasing the Cold War tensions. It just, could go either way on that, but it ended up basically nothing. No one gained anything, no one lost anything. Now, I know it's kind of cheating in a way, but I'd been reading the forums, and I originally, because I've got fair weather over here now, and I was thinking about pulling these Great British units, infantry down, but Great Britain doesn't get a whole lot of infantry, and someone mentioned that they wish they had known that due to some 1940s event. And with everything that I've got getting ready to push into France, I'm wondering if I send the expeditionary force down, if it's going to leave Great Britain open to invasion Operation CeeLo, or Sea Lion, I think it is, by the Germans. And I don't want to wipe them out, instantly, because that'll leave pretty much just America and Russia at that point. But I don't know. We'll see what we're going to do with that at that point. I'm going to go start off this turn with taking out Portugal with Spain, and also taking out the Horn of Gibraltar. And then I'm also going to be pushing left here with the Italian units attacking these French ones down here, because I can go after here without violating that Halder save event marker. I'm still having to wait one more turn before I can make the push here with the German units. And I'm also going to take and push into Denmark. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now while I'm here as their first turn. 1, 2, and 3. So they're in Denmark's capital. Denmark only has one hex, so it's not like they can deploy their units now at this point, so they're pretty well stuck. And I'll own Denmark and the Straits at that point, so the sea barrier after this turn won't matter, and I can push out with these German ships and go after it. And also means that at least my German ships are safe where they're at currently. What are we gonna do for a allied movement? They don't have much that they can do at this point. Let's see, we'll take and move this infantry over here in case I do decide to send the German infantry down. That's where the port is for Britain. So if I decide to send them down to reinforce France, they're right there on the port, ready to go. And now we'll do what I've been wanting to do, which is... No, we'll do the other one first. I'm going to have some of my units attack Portugal's capital there and see if we can go ahead and take them out. It's Spanish versus Portuguese. Give me a second, I'll transfer us down to the front. Alright, we're down here to the front. Let me scooch around just a little bit. Go. And I decided to take and leave out 2 of the units that I had stacked there as reserves. I'm not putting them way over in the reserve box because, like I said before, for some reason that's on the Antarctic map, and I just leave them to the side. So they will not be participating in this battle. 3 should be more than enough to wipe out a 1-1 Polish unit. Spain does have 1 air unit that I decided to go ahead and use just to see if I can wipe them out first. Or Portugal does. Let's take and see here. They are a 2 ground unit versus a 1, which means they need a 4 or better. Let's roll off on that real quick, see what we get. And no. Got a 3, so we're going to have ground combat. And this, let's see, I got to choose my attack mode first. We're going to go all out. Where's our Blitzkrieg? Here we go. Blitzkrieg is our attack mode down there. And let's find out what the Polish units are going to be using. 6. So they're going to be using balanced defense, which means our violence numbers are going to be 5 and 6. Defense will fire first, and the side that takes the most hits is going to retreat, and the attackers do not flip, so that's actually good. Route rules will come in play if they get squashed, which they will probably get killed. So there is no terrain or weather effects on this, so it's just going to be a flat roll-off. The defenders do have one higher defense number or violence number, so that's going to help them a little bit. Spain is going to be rolling 4 dice, 1 for each unit, plus 1 for the flanking units, and Portugal's just going to be rolling their 1 firepower. Let me go ahead and move this into the committed box. Oh, I forgot to move those back after the previous turn. All air units are moved back after you're done. Alright, let's roll off. See who gets what. Let's see, that's good, that's good. That's overall. Alright. Blue is for Portugal. 3 is for, or red is for Spain. Now, as it is, Portugal got 9, 12 hits against this, so they would have to die 6 times over to absorb all those hits, so they're easily squashed. They did get 5 hits back on us, though. So, how can I do that? It's probably just going to be a shatter 1 unit, because if I shatter 1 unit, that eats up 3, leaving only 2, so nothing else could be done to it. So 1 Spanish unit did get shattered in it, but they were able to kill off the Portuguese units. Let's go back down to the map and see what happens. Alright, we're back down here to the map. For just ease for me, I went ahead and did the quick battle of Gibraltar there, since that's just a small unit. And they got wiped out. I'm going to go ahead and do the Allied Pulse real quick, what they're going to do, and then finish up with that unit's movement. I didn't bother to record that because it was not worth getting into all the trouble of just a single 1-1 crappy unit. And since I know that I'm going to be coming up this way, I'm going to have this Allied unit here attempt to create a garrison, do a garrison pulse to reinforce the southern side of France. You can see that I did have the remaining attacking units go into the capital of Portugal. They're going to remain there to take out Portugal and conquer them. These units that were in reserve stayed back and are not flipped, and they're going to be moving up next to France here in the upcoming turns. Alright, let's take and roll off on that real quick. And just in case you're wondering, the garrison chart is top left right there, and it shows you what to do. A failure means that you don't get the garrison and the unit's flipped. A loss means that you get the garrison but you lose the infantry unit. Success means that you get the garrison and it is a flipped unit. And 5 to 6 you get the garrison and don't have to flip the unit, so you can do something with it later. So let's roll off, see what the Frenchies get here. And they rolled well. They got a 6. Should have done this first. Hold on here. I forgot to pull out my garrison unit and find one little French garrison unit here. You notice anytime you're recording, that's when I've noticed that I can't find what I'm looking for. Just a sec here. Planes, infantry. What the hell is a garrison unit? Garrison. Y'all bear with me, I'll find it. Die trying. Where the hell is it? Can't find it here in a sec. I'll just take and do it later. Off camera. Where the hell? I've got nothing but French units in this little stack here. I cannot find it. I wonder if the French don't have that many garrisons. And the French barely have any units anyway. Okay, here we go. Found one. They really don't have that many units in this game, but they really don't need them. because they get wiped out rather quick. Alright, so we'll pick this up here and put down our garrison unit there. So now it's a little more reinforced. Just remember, your garrison units cannot move, cannot attack, cannot do anything. They pretty much exist there, and that's it. Now, something I've been wanting to do from the start of this, and I was reading over the rules in my little break on how to do it, is get some naval combat going. So I'm going to have this naval task force here, the Italian one, move out since I've got control of the Horn of Gibraltar, and move here to engage this French task force here. Now, I was originally thinking I could just take and attack and just bring it back down to the front and show you guys that. But it doesn't work that way. There's this whole naval interception deal, which this chart is actually, you can print it off from BGG, and I would definitely recommend doing that. They have to sight each other to get a combat going, and it's depending on who sights who and when, it affects on whether it's a day action or a night action, and there's a whole bunch of role modifiers. I'm not going to get into all the specifics, but the gist of it is that the French unit, the French ships, have the option to try and sight the Italian ships, and the Italian ships are trying to sight the French ships. It's supposed to represent them searching for each other in the waters, and each side gets bonuses for certain things, like having friendly armies within a certain distance, if you have carriers, if you have so many ships. And as it is, you're trying to roll your number or under, and unfortunately both of these guys have a sight number currently of 1, so you have to roll a 1 or under to get it. The Italians have a -1 to their number, and the French have a -1 to their number, and a -2 to their number as well. So the French have a -3, and the Italians just have a -1. So this is actually in the French favor. I'm going to roll a couple of d6 here. White's going to be for the French, red's going to be for the Italians, and see if we actually have some naval combat here. Alright. What is that? That's going to be over their sight number. And crap. Let me move this over here so you guys can see that. And up, 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 up. So, unfortunately, this pulse, the units didn't get sighted. Neither side sighted. And when neither side is sighted or surprised, no combat occurs. That ship, that task force, can continue on with its movement, but it cannot attempt to attack that task force again. So I either continue to move them or I flip them. And I can attempt to attack them with the French task force and try to sight them on the following turn. I'll tell you what, just so I can get some naval combat and you guys can see it, I'm going to leave the Italian ships here in this hex. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pull back a little bit to try to help them out. Let's see. Where can they pull back to? They're going to be in range of anyone there. Just to get out of the coastal controlled hex of the French, I'm going to pull back from there, and I'll have the French units, actually here I'll just have them do it on this pulse, have the French naval unit attempt to interdict, and it's going to be the same thing this time, with the exception of that the French will not be getting that bonus 2, the -2 to sight. I don't want to, if they surprise me and they get to shoot first, then they get a free round of shots against my Italian ships before everything happens. I don't want them to get that. So let's roll off, see if we can get a 2 or less on either one of these. Alright, we are going to have some naval combat on this one. Let me bring it over and show you guys. There we go. Actually got a 1 on my Italian ships. So they sighted the French. The French did not sight them. So in that situation, let me check my little thing here. Sight and no sight. Sighter's choice of day or night and whether to have combat. And if so, there's a free round. Free round means you get 1 round of shots against the enemy ships first. So let me get that set up real quick and I will bring you guys down to the front. Alright, welcome down to the front. And here we have each of the ships that were in the 2 task forces. There are 4 battleships in each set, in each task force. So they're relatively evenly matched with the exception of the French have 2 battleships that are just a touch weaker than the Italians. Now, from what I've read up on this, the way it works is it's a little simpler, I guess, than the land combat because there's no landlord grid, there's no violence number. You're simply rolling 2 dice, a d6 and a d10. 10s, count as 10s in this. You roll it, you add it together, and then you add the left number, the firepower number of your ship to that, and if it's higher than the armor value, which is the bigger number on the right of the ship, then it's damaged and it is pulled down into the hit box. Now this hit -1, the way it works is it's an optional rule. You don't have to use it, but if you do, it reduces the firepower and armor of the ship by a further 1, and if it takes another hit after that, it goes down to the suck box. Now, if it's in this box, at the end of combat, you're going to roll a d6 on each one, and whatever number you get is how many turns it takes to be repaired after combat. And it's similar to ground units that are shattered. You can repair 3 ships. I'm pretty sure I read this. I'll read it. I'll check it again just to make sure. But you can repair 3 ships or build 1 brand new one using a factory during your production phase. If you do roll a 6, however, it is too badly damaged and cannot be repaired and is scrapped. And in this game, when ships are gone, they're gone. So you have to be kind of careful about that. Now, the Italians did get... they sighted the French before the French sighted them. So they get to pick night or day action, and they get 1 free round of shots, combat, before the French do. In this little combat scenario, I'm not going to worry too much about the whole day-night scenario. Again, it's something that's on the Antarctic map, and it really isn't going to matter for this. It seems like the whole day-night thing has a lot more to do with carriers and them being in combat. For this, all the ships are going to be firing. All the ships can be fired at. So there's nothing really to worry about as far as that's concerned. Oh, I just realized I forgot to put the Italian ships into the air availability box. That's not good. There we go. Now I got them to use. So I'm just going to do my rounds here and just not worry about day-night cycle. When I have a combat that actually has carriers in it, I'll get a little more specific into that. So let's roll off. I'm just going to have these attack straight down the line. You can't have, for example, these 2 attack this one and these 2 attack this one to try to kill off your opponents. You have to assign 1 attacker to each ship that can be attacked before you can start doubling up or tripling up, you know, on down the line. So this is going to be a straight, just 1 right across the board. Alright, first one is going to be, let's see, we got a 6, plus the 5 is 11, plus the 3 is 14, so this one is down to the hit box. Let's roll again. Let's see what we get on the next one. Oh, and before I continue, don't remember if I mentioned this at the beginning, but after a round of combat, both players will choose whether or not they wish to continue with the naval combat. My plan is to roll off for the allies on whether or not they're doing that. 1 to 3 they don't, 4 to 6 they continue. If the French are horribly mauled, they're not going to continue. If every one of their ships are in the hitbox versus none of the Italians, they'll disengage. I'll make a judgment call on that one instead of just trusting it to the roll. Alright, second one is no good. Got a 1 and a 4. Third one, come on, big numbers. Oh! Look at this. Snake eyes in effect. That's crap. Alright, last one. Come on, big number. We gotta take out these Frenchies. And wow. These guys are rolling like crap. So, no damage. Since it went that way, the French are not too badly mauled. I am going to roll off on it. Let's see. 1 to 3, we will do will stop the fight. 4 to 6, they will continue. And they got a 6, so we're going to do... Well, I could quit out. If I quit out, it's counted as me losing the combat, and I don't want that to happen, so we're going to do another round here. Now, at this one, the French will also be firing back, and same principle will apply. We're just going to go straight down the line because they can't double up on mine. And this is a relatively easy naval combat. Let's see. For simplicity's sake, I'll go ahead and do my shots against them first. And we'll just remember that they only have one that's in a hitbox already. So first shot, come on, big numbers. Let's see, that's a 14. So this one does fire and kill off this one. He will be moved there. But he will get his shot back at a firepower of 1 before then. So I'm going to put him a little halfway here to represent that. So I lost one. Second one is a 10 total. So this one is also moved down to the hitbox. The French should have quit. Third one is an 11. So this one is also moved down to the hitbox. Look, I flipped it. And like I said, I'm just moving them halfway to remind myself that they're going to take their shots back at full power. And last one is a 13, so that blew it away. And again, that's 7 plus that is 13, plus the 3 is 16, so easily overpowers that. Alright. Switch over to my blue and white dice for the return fire. This one, the firepower of this ship is only going to be a 1, since it was already damaged previously. And damn, rolled big. It got a natural 12, which is enough to do it, plus the 1, so it got a 13. Second ship also got a 12. Damn, they are rolling big here. And third ship. Wow, I should have quit while I was ahead. Both of those damaged. And finally, one that didn't get hit. A 5, which means that one's not hit. Alright, we're down here. And since they've lost one and their 3 remaining are hurt pretty bad, I can definitely guarantee the French are going to withdraw from this combat and I also want to withdraw because I don't want to risk sinking any of my ships. So at this point they get rolled off on. This one is simply removed from the game completely. The rest, let's see, 3. So this one will be 3 turns out on the gray part of your naval build chart. The one that'll have repair right underneath it. 1, so this one wasn't too badly damaged. It can be brought back in 1 turn. And 4 turns on that one. And 1 for mine. And I'll tell you what, since I, for some reason my camera right now is acting a little squirrely, I'm gonna finish this off camera and I will get you back down to the front, or back down to the map. Alright, and we're back down to the map. Let me scroll a little bit here. Since this video is already getting longer than I wanted it to be, I'm gonna go ahead and chopper here and then take and finish up the remainder of the turn with the combat that's left to happen up here in Europe, and then the remainder of the Pacific phase. I was going to try to cut it off at the Pacific phase, but I'm getting long. That naval combat took a little while. As you can see, the remaining task force stayed there. There was only 1 Italian ship survived. Everything else is either destroyed or in the repair box. Both Italy and France now have 3 ships each in the repair box, but their factories can take and repair them and deploy them out in the following turns. I figured to save a little bit of time, I'll go ahead and hit a event for each side just to have one of those in here. I went ahead and drew it. I have, let's see, pull that up there. It's VE4 for the Axis, which comes out to VE39-4, which is right here. Mussolini meta-taxes, whatever the hell that is, pact. And it starts off with an alliance if Greece and Italy are neutral. They're not, so don't have to worry about that. There's a raid if Belgium has been invaded by Britain or France. And they really haven't been invaded, but you do start the scenario off with a French unit garrison in Belgium. So I'm going to count that, and it means that the U.S. will impose sanctions, and you have to flip 1 French army or ship. So we'll just take and mark that one as flipped. Marina Lee, glamorous Nazi spy, infiltrates Norwegian army, allowing Germany to neutralize Norway's defenses. Event may be played at any moment. Roll 1d6 on a 1 to 4. Remove the Norwegian army from the game. 5 or 6 has no effect. What I'm going to do is leave this out. Leave this marker out as basically a save marker, so I can remember that anytime the Norwegian army pops on the board, if they're not on my side, I'll remove them. And the Italians have a ship, you can see right here, that pops up. It's marked at 12 turns, so it's on the naval build pool, and I can select to use an Italian factory to build that, at which point it'll be placed 12 turns out on the turn track, which they need right now since they have lost some ships. And for the Allies, I pulled, pull it up here, VE3, which comes out to VE39-3, and that is a war to the finish. This one, Rhodesia declares war on the Axis, but they're already at war with the Axis, so I don't have to do anything on that one. If the USSR is still neutral, deploy 1 infantry unit, which they are still neutral. So we're going to take and pop this on a fort right here, which is good because actually a previous event took away a couple of their infantry units. They've had units come and go, and they haven't even been involved in the conflict. If someone's going to have to tell me if I'm saying this wrong, Eyre is neutral and Belfast is UN. The British respond to IRA terrorism, deploy a British garrison in Belfast. So that will go there on the board. And there's a couple more ship builds, one for the USSR and one for France. I've got both of those on the build track. And there's one thing here, one of the variants. It's called the Nordic Neutrality Pact. That only applies in your game if the Winter War hasn't happened. And the Winter War happened in mine, and Finland stayed neutral, so that actually has no impact. This is for those, I think it's green and purple or green and bluish, whatever markers they call them variants. You put them various places on the map to remember that. For example, this one here that I showed you guys previously. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here because it's been a few days since I've uploaded a turn, and I'll come back, and hopefully it won't take too long. I think it took me a little bit longer because I had the naval conflict going on, and I had to read up on that, and that took a little bit of time. And we'll finish up with the conflict here, try to take out these French units, put these Italian ones down here, and the Spanish. Not much else can happen in Europe because it's not until the next turn that Germany can start its push into France. So after that is done, I'll take and have a little conflict go on in the Pacific and finish that out for you guys. All right, y'all take care.